Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Build Stuff 2021, Day 2. Big hello to everybody watching us there on site in Vilnius at the Kinoplex. Hey, folks. A big hello to everyone out there on the internet watching us online. Our first speaker this morning, it is my great pleasure to welcome to the Build Stuff stage, Barbara Dravec, who is going to be telling us how to uncover and slice the elephant, to talk all about motivation. You good to go, Barbara?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dylan.
The stage is yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Dylan. Good morning, Vilnius. Good morning, world. I'm so excited and I wish you a warm welcome. And I'm so thrilled to be here with you today. Also, after the talk we just heard, I'm super pumped. I tried to, include all his awesome advice. So I was all doing positive and my plant in the background, and it made me feel super positive and excited. And welcome to my talk, Uncover and Slice the Elephant, at this awesome Build Stuff conference that we've been looking forward to participate and attend so intently. So my name, as you said, Dylan, is Barbara Dravec. I'm a lecturer at University of Applied Sciences in Switzerland. I'm a project manager, a founder of a company called Tech and IT Discovery Engine. And we're currently working on creating software for better reading experiences for kids on mobile devices. So there's your purpose. We're going to be talking about that more. And as an agile coach, I'm supporting usually a lot of teams. Right now, it's like 2 project teams that I'm coaching to create better products using agile software development techniques. And let's jump right into my talk. I mean, that's when I realized that motivation issues in agile teams are huge, actually. But not only in agile teams, but in like a lot of teams. And it makes me sad to hear managers, team members, and so-called experts talk about motivation and how to motivate teams. And I hear a lot of stuff like, well, you are either motivated or you're not, or comments like, I can't force people to be motivated. It has to come from them, from within them. And I try to make them understand that they need to do such and such, but that's all I can do for them. And then usually it gets even worse when they say like they have to bear the consequences. If they're not willing to do what it takes, they might as well leave the team. And that's how people talk about motivation. And I'm sure you've heard conversations like that, or overheard people, or even were in conversations where this topic was looked at. And it gets worse when people like myself claim to be coaches, managers, or experts in the field, and then they talk about motivation, as if you couldn't do anything about it if it wasn't intrinsically there. And so faced with a team who obviously suffered motivational issues, I needed to look at this concept in more depth. And, we know that knowledge workers, software developers are intrinsically motivated. Research shows that. And we know that they are intrinsically motivated if they have autonomy, mastery, and purpose. But first, let me show you what we're up against, especially when we're working in agile development teams. So I hope you can actually see my screen here. It's I decided to do this on Miro. I don't know if a couple of people are familiar with this. So yeah, just let me know if you have issues seeing it. So what's the real problem here? So imagine we have a Scrum team, we're working agile, and the assumption that we know when working with agile teams is that they are per se motivated. Agility has mechanisms, mindsets, and ideals already built in to motivate team members. We're talking process here, like plannings, dailies, retrospectives are all tools and mechanisms that should keep people motivated. Now, I can tell you, they are not. That's the sad truth, right? They can participate, they can actually speak up, but that will not necessarily motivate them and keep the team motivated. And there's your elephant, there is your elephant. How can you address motivational issues if you think they just have to be motivated because we're actually working according to Scrum and agile methodologies? And so that's where the analysis usually stops, and that's when we have conversation like take it or leave it, stay or leave. So because people are not intrinsically motivated, we go to assumption number 2. People think that motivation stays stable over time. Now, I can just tell you, oops, zoom out, zoom in. Motivation is not like an indicator. It's not a stable variable. Let's put it that way. Motivation is much more like our blood pressure. I can tell you at the beginning of a project, it's all bells and whistles, right? We're like super happy. Yay, we can, create a new project. We can create a new product, and we come up with a product vision. It's really cool. We create the first story map, and we start to understand the domain and believe that we can solve many of those nasty problems ahead. And the sobering reality usually catches up with us once we realized that the solution might not be so well received by the intended use base. You got to fight with some serious bugs. You have instabilities or safety issues concerning user data management, or, what often happens, funding is in jeopardy. You're not getting the funding that was initially dedicated to the project. And that's when the motivational issue, the motivational elephant in the room starts to take form and shape. And some team members are not so motivated anymore. Motivation is more like blood pressure, right? Right now, Dylan, my blood pressure is like 700. I'm basically like, it's racing. But then once I'm done here, it's probably going to be like super low and I almost collapse. So that's how how we know motivation is also going. Maybe it's not that quickly. It's not like blood pressure that has like literally 1 million data points on a 24-hour day. That's not motivation. It's probably a little bit longer, but it's still very, very variable. Okay. And so, motivation, why is it like an elephant? Why do you think the elephant is a good metaphor for motivation in agile teams? Because it's a big issue. It's a really big issue. Because of the things we already heard before, that we think people are intrinsically motivated, it's big because we can't talk about it, and it really impacts our way and our ability to work together productively on a product. It's also to the point where it takes up a lot of space, because if you always have to hide your emotions, like you're not motivated entirely, but you should be, and then you're trying to hide it, this is really going to take up a lot of your energy and space. And so it's powerful, it can easily kill you or your project if you don't deal with it, if you don't know how to deal with it. It's wonderful if it's just there. They're beautiful animals. But to guide it, I guess it takes a lot of strength and efforts to move the elephant. So when team members came up to me and said, we're not really motivated, instinctively, I'm like, oh God, I have to move the elephant now. It's going to be so hard. So I kind of roll my eyes instinctively. Well, actually, I do it without noticing it. So it's really bad. My kids told me recently, Mom, you're rolling your eyes again. And so I was clueless, we had spotted the elephant with the team at least, which is great, but literally no idea how to get to the bottom of this problem. And I was like, okay, let's start slicing the elephant. And I had, the luck of having like really good people I work with. And they were like, yeah, just go to Dan Pink. He kind of killed this topic. Just read his book and you'll be fine, So I read Daniel Pink's book, Drive. He wrote it in 2010. And he dissected very beautifully what motivates knowledge workers as opposed to manual workers. So he slices motivation in 3 aspects. And he collected a lot of research on this topic, motivational topic, over several years that was produced. And the research conducted by great scientists pointed all to the fact that knowledge workers are intrinsically motivated, but only, right, if they know their purpose, they're able to reach mastery, and they're able to work autonomously. There are other concepts. There's also the concept of balance, and there's a concept of team trust that all plays into these topics. But I was like, look, for my purpose here, like keeping it easy and simple, that's totally what I'm gonna go for. So purpose means that we make sure to keep people motivated. They need to understand the purpose. What does the team have to achieve? Does it make sense? And very important as well, what's the value in what I'm doing? What's the value of this project? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And then they also want to have mastery. So how valuable is my personal effort and contribution to the project's success? So we see that with a lot of junior people. They're like, well, I can't really contribute anything. So they're just, they're just like demotivated. And then they're also afraid how well they can actually execute actions required to deal, actions meaning how they can deliver the work that's required for the project. And autonomy, and that's a very interesting stuff. And I'm sure we can't hear it anymore, but it's really gotten to a new level in the past year. Like the level of autonomy that our industry is able to work with is just amazing, because I just read research recently that said, hey, like the industry, the software development industry, has gone through the roof in terms of productivity, even though we were faced with having to work from home and being disconnected. But obviously this industry has autonomy written all over their body and faces. So autonomy is very important for intrinsic motivation. And so, I went there, I dissected the motivational problem using Dan Pink's system. And well, they're still like, how on earth are you going to uncover this elephant now? And so I'm coming from a social science background. You studied political science, and there it's all about measuring stuff, right? as it is, of course, in natural sciences as well. But in social sciences, it's always a little bit looked upon like, what are you actually measuring? Qualitative data, really? And you're making like, and you get to results. And I'm like, yeah, totally. So what I came up with, I remembered from my social science background that you can fall into the trap of measuring the wrong thing. So I went to my good friend Magda, who is a psychologist. And I was like, Magda, I need to measure motivation according to the three sections: purpose, mastery, and autonomy. Could you help me come up with questions that actually measure what I need to measure? And she's like, oh yeah, totally. Take my questions. Those are all validated questions that actually measure purpose, that actually measure mastery, and that actually measure autonomy. Validated means we're really measuring this concept. You can come up with any kind of questions, which I actually also asked the team. But then we're not entirely sure, are we actually measuring autonomy, or is it more like we're measuring a different concept? So those are validated questions she would provide me with. And I'm eternally grateful for this, because it kind of makes me feel better to know that I'm actually measuring these things, and that the data that I'm producing is reliable. And so we also asked the team members if they wanted to add questions. And as you can see, they did. I think they did add those 3. And so the measurement scale is very simple. Oopsie. Sorry, I just moved this. It's a Likert type scale, measuring from 1, I strongly disagree, to 5, I strongly agree. So looking at purpose and mastery here, my team, was doing pretty okay. I mean, they seem to understand the objective of the project and the project vision. And, they seem to be quite comfortable also with their skill level, the mastery. They seem to be fine. And then we go to the autonomy trust questions. And I know it's not the same thing, autonomy and team trust, but I kind of put it in the same area because I just didn't want to have more areas, but it kind of goes into this a little bit. So questions here are like, I would be comfortable giving other team members complete responsibility for completion of this project, or I can make mistakes without being blamed for it. I believe that we can deliver a good project even though we are a team of 4. Well, that was a big issue, big issue, because team members would, stop working for the project. This one was kind of sad for one person. I'm not relying on the receiving tasks from other team members, meaning they can work independently and autonomously. And so this is the questionnaire I would give them, and I would have them fill this out. Sorry for this. During, several sprints, and you could show trends. So I'm very happy to provide you with this questionnaire that is validated to measure motivation in your team, and that measuring really helped me uncover the elephant. And they were very happy to participate in this uncovering the elephant. And so now, my dear audience, we were kind of able to unveil the elephant using this questionnaire with validated questions. After having sliced the elephant and uncovered it, I can tell you that's the easy part. Maybe analyzing the data is also kind of not so hard for you, but analyzing and measuring motivation makes it easier to now do something about it. We're leaving the path of, I think you're just not motivated, towards, I see that you're highly motivated, but we need to clarify, a couple of things that we see when we recorded and collected the data. Let's communicate transparently and non-judgmentally. So, we looked at the data before, and I'm happy to look at it with you again, that the team had issues with team trust. Independent work seemed to be a problem with the team, and they didn't trust other team members to get the job done. That's what we kind of saw from the data. And seriously, when you saw the team and worked with the team, you could also kind of feel and see this without collecting the data, but then it would be very judgmental to talk to, a team member who just got married and saying like, you're kind of absent, what's wrong with you? But seeing the data, we could really raise all those concerns about, you feel like you're not being trusted by others in a very non-judgmental way. And the the questionnaire as an instrument helped us to unearth this issue. But as I said, it's just the start. You analyze the data, you don't make a big fuss about it. It's not scientific, it's just like it gives you the information you need to continue. And so we analyzed it, and the individual coaching journey began for me to find out, well, how could I help the team, dealing with the trust issues? And so here is the elephant, and the elephant always hovers in the back of my mind, and I'm about to create this individual coaching journey. And I'm like, okay, so I don't know what to do. I know team doesn't trust each other, and then there's big issues. So let me run some experiments, find out what works, and then maybe adjust it, and then maybe try again and come up with something new, reiterate and collect more data, And so that's what we did. And I'm sure you're wondering, what were the experiments we ran? And that's actually it's very cool. We ran something called the experiment beacon. We did some mob programming, and we did some mental hygiene retrospectives, as I call them. And again, you see how clueless that I was. And I started to run the experiment beacon, and I didn't bring an example, but basically how the experiment beacon works is you're recording your baby step experiments, be that, developing the software product, or you can do it with your UI. You write down the expected result of the experiment, and then you record, of course, the actual result. And you also look how you can test this experiment, by, sending users to A/B testings, and then you see, did my assumption work or not according to the data? And after you have the results recorded, and don't get me wrong, these are like 1 or 2 days experiments. I mean, it's not like huge experiments. You discuss the results, and based on the results, you're coming to a mutual decision as a team to either continue experimenting more because you need more data, or you're like, this experiment failed, or you're actually saying, well, this experiment worked so well, based on what we see, we're just going to include that result into our daily work, right? So that's how the experiment beacon works. It didn't resonate so well with the team because it's kind of like, just to build trust, it's a lot of work to like run experiments and get better. And you can do that, if you don't have the team trust issue, but just trying to talk about decisions could help with building team trust, but it didn't resonate so well with my team. And then we did mob programming. I don't know. I would love to hear other people's experiences using mob programming. We did that over a period of a month, and mob programming is going one step up from pair programming, where you write code and test code, solving hard problems as an entire team, right? You have the mob, you have the navigator, you have the typist, and you work together in a team of 4 to 8 people all the time, producing code, writing software together. And that way, I mean, I can just tell you, it's mind-blowing. Misunderstandings within like 20 minutes, huge discussions, and then another 20 minutes, like total chaos. And then after like a morning of mob programming, people are like totally, like tired, but you achieve so much. And then it just starts getting better and better and better. And people are like, oh, mob programming is completely useless. Let's stop this. To like after a couple of days, or like, oh my God, we totally solved these problems together. I would not have thought this possible. And mob programming, there is a free book, I think. You find how to do it. It's a really awesome practice for fast-paced technology teams. It's very, very tiresome. And that's why we did stick to this practice for a couple of weeks. But then we're like, hey, we can't keep that up. So we skipped that as well. And then we went to mental hygiene retrospectives. And what is that? Well, this is, retrospectives where you actually do a lot of change of perspectives. I mean, this is like the number one technique, to make understand the other person's viewpoint. You just switch positions. Like if I would want have a mental hygiene retrospective with Dylan, I would just say like, well, Dylan, let's skip places. I'm going to be like helping you out with technology, and you're just going to finish my talk. And then really thinking hard to put yourself into another person's position, try to have empathy with their feelings. I mean, I wouldn't want Dylan to have to finish this talk because he doesn't know what's coming up. I wouldn't want anyone else to having to deal with the problems I'm dealing with as a software developer, as a product owner. So, step into other people's shoes and see the world from their perspective. That's what really helped the team with trust. That's what really helped them to like be able to understand each other better. And, a lot of people frown upon role plays, but that's what really, really helped us. And I was surprised. I was like, oh, I thought this was like this super awesome technology team, like no feelings, no whatever. And that's actually what really kicked them off. And they're like, dude, I get it now. I get this other person's perspective. And I know it's not because he doesn't want to do the job. He just is missing this and that, he's dealing with this. And so that really, really helped us, get over the motivational issue. And, measuring motivation over time, you will see variances, and you have to decide as a coach, as a team, do we need to do something, or can we just try and, the retrospective is enough? I mean, that is really the hard thing. But if you see consecutively that you have problems in mastery, purpose, autonomy, trust, you might want to think hard what to do and be sure to run some experiments. So yeah, selecting what works for your team is definitely hard work for us coaches and also team members who want to bring their teams to the next level. And I'm just telling you, as someone who is experimenting constantly, just try, just try. There is really no better thing than just trying things out. And this is just one journey that I listed here, and I'm sure you have others, but that's the way how I would suggest you go about this. Okay, measure the data, measure motivation, analyze it, run experiments, and then select what works for your team. And with this, Dylan, I'm already at the end of my talk. And I'm not sure about the timing here. It's like half an hour. You have to help me out here, how we do it with the questions, but I heard it's sharp, 40 minutes sharp. So we have 10 minutes for the questions.
That's absolutely fine. So we have, folks, those of you out there watching the stream, first of all, thank you very much. That was really, really interesting, and a lot of very kind of, detailed stuff in there. Folks, if you do have any questions, the problem with online events, no one ever asks any questions. So come on, Build Stuff audience, this is your chance to prove us wrong and ask some questions, because I can see there's 95 people out there watching this on the stream right now. And in theory, there's a movie theater in Lithuania full of people watching this on a massive big screen right now with popcorn and soda and stuff as well. Although we can't see that on the stream, but my spies on the ground, they assure me that this is what's going on. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you. Is that really true with the big screen? I mean, I like.
So the format that they're running is there are 6 cinema auditoria, 6 cinemas in Vilnius, and 3 of them are in person. So they got live speakers there in the room, and the others are showing the online speakers, and people are coming in and watching them. So you're up on a big screen. Manel, we have a question. The question is, what would be your approach if the lack of motivation comes from out of the team? So
hey, so that's an organizational question, right? That's like when organizations have this kind of have issues there. And so I mean, it always starts, an organization has no has no life if there are not individuals involved, right? So motivation starts at the individual level, and understanding that we're not machines, we're just humans. I think that's a good starting point. So if you have a management level and you feel that they're not motivated to support you as a team, to support your work, and absolutely, I mean, this is a lot of times, especially with like older software products running on host systems, management is like, oh, we just want to get rid of that. Don't even, you mean that type of thing, right? This kind of reaction, like, we want to get rid of that system since a long time, but we can't. Okay. Right? That's the time, like, and those are the systems that keep organizations alive, and you can't just get rid of them. And so what I suggest is you have to start at the individual level, talk to the manager that makes this reaction, that has this reaction, talk to this person, and talk to this person with the slices of the elephant in mind, and try to figure out what this person is hating, or why this person is not motivated to listen to your problems, to fund you more. Is it because they don't understand the purpose of the product? Is it because they don't have the skills to understand how host programming is done and think it's overrated? Is it because they feel like they don't see what kind of work you're doing because you're doing it all from home, and they don't see how productive you are? So try to figure out what makes them in which area they are demotivated about your team. And if you see which area they're demotivated, purpose, it's an easy thing, try to start advocating for your product, for your software, for your team. Show the value that you're bringing to the company. or even better, but don't tell them. Have them be an ambassador for your team. Tell them, yes, I know we have a problem with the purpose. No one understands our value. Could you help us?
Do you ever find, so something I've experienced, personally several times is particularly when you're talking about, legacy applications, there will be somebody in the organization who they, on the one hand, like a manager who's motivated by sales targets or profit or something, but they think the software is just a pain in the ass that they want to get rid of. And they don't seem to understand, like, no, if we took the software away, you would be out of a job. Like the entire business function that keeps you here exists because we have this system in place, and that's one of the biggest challenges, particularly when it's, people who they weren't the instigator of that system. They're somebody who has been, promoted or recruited from outside. And now it's kind of, they're responsible for it, but it's not their thing. They don't own it and they don't like it. Have you ever come up against that situation? You got any advice for how to kind of get through to people on that level?
Yeah. Seriously, we have to, that's a whole different, that's actually a good topic for another topic, for another talk. It's like you have to know the zone you're in, the environment you're in. And what you just described to me sounds a lot to me like a war zone. Okay. Like if you're in a war zone, if you have legacy applications that you can't get rid of, management is very negative about it. But people put in a lot of effort and time and sweat into keeping those running. And I know what I'm talking. This is like night shifts, and you're like, host this down, and this is that. So know where you're at, like what's the environment you're in, and try to, this is another type of analysis you're doing then, so if you're in a war zone, and I'm very sad to bring up this kind of language, or if you're in a game and your opponent is very strong, David and Goliath, Goliath, know your tools, know how to master your tools. Automation might help you be faster, get your costs down, but then allies, look for allies, look for allies who understand what you're saying. And they are out there. Usually they're not very outspoken, but if you have allies in every meeting, in every conference, in every call of the company that actually stand up for you some or the other way, might help you,
Great stuff. Got a couple more questions come up in chat. So Rasa says, I'm wondering how the team reacted to the motivation survey. I've noticed that in some cases, surveys or the number of surveys can actually frustrate the team and they start ignoring them.
Yeah, it's really a question of pain. So I wouldn't advise doing this with teams who are motivated and still in this rocket phase of like, we're gonna be conquering the world and nothing can stop us. You wouldn't want to do it then, definitely. You want to do it when you like start feeling that people's or teams' productivity is at jeopardy. Of course, then, and you just, understanding that motivation is like blood pressure. It's a bodily function that is not stable. Just only understanding this is already a good basis. Okay, so maybe you can also just talk with them about this without doing the survey. The questionnaire you only do when it starts to hurt. When you're like, this person is not motivated and this person, and that's why I'm not motivated and it sucks. And what can we do?
Cool, thank you. And what I think is probably our final question for today's session, is there a way to motivate people who in their head are going to retirement because they have only 2 years left until they retire?
Yes, absolutely. I think I personally saw that, and it's amazing. Motivation has no age tag. Okay, so especially for older people, if they can learn new stuff, mastery, because their contribution is valuable, mastery, that will, so you have to give them something where they can actually contribute. and you have to show them that their contribution is valuable and by younger team members valued. And that's, I think you can, because a lot of times older employees, they feel like no one wants me and everything I'm doing is not right. So I'm just waiting here. I'm waiting it out. Yeah. So give them value.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, folks, I think we are all done here. Thank you so much, Barbara, for taking the time to join and speak to us today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in online. Thank you, all the folks who are watching us there in Vilnius. We are going to take a short break, and we are going to be back with you in a few minutes. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you all back here shortly.
Thank you, Dylan.